Hey guys, welcome back to the Mind Body Broadcast with Austin and Marty. And today we have we actually had a request from one of our listeners for a topic, and it was a great request. So we're going to go ahead and cover it. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing, but it should work out nicely. And I will go ahead and just kind of read her question off here so you guys know what we're going to be talking about. She says, I have a show idea dealing with post-show emotions. Reverse dieting, easing back into cardio, etc. is one thing, but the mental and emotional adjustment post-show is something else. And I know I'm not alone in feeling ill-equipped to handle it. If you've already shared this topic, it might be worth resharing. But yeah, we've done an episode on reverse dieting, but it was primarily aimed towards reverse dieting, the physical aspect of it. And we did talk a little bit about the emotional side of it, like how that could play into how fast you add food back in and so on and so forth. But yeah, the emotional, what do you want to call it? Post-show blues, or just lack of
direction, maybe. You know what I mean? Like what's next type of thing.
What's next? That's it. I think that's really perfect way to describe it, is what's next. And I think that people get that what's next effect after their shows, and even seasoned competitors. I see it all the time. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, those are the people that don't really make a lot of improvements, because they don't have that structured off season, whether it's they don't have the direction from a good coach or they just mentally aren't able to navigate that, because it is, like, let's face it. I mean, making improvements to your physique is extremely monotonous and takes a long time, and it's very repetitive. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there are changes, and there are things that change in the plan. If you're working with a coach, checking in weekly or bi-weekly or whatever. I mean, but at the same time, you're not seeing the changes in the mirror. If anything, you're seeing yourself get fatter, So,
yeah.
And to actually visibly see muscle growth happening, it's far and few between for the average genetics. You know what I mean? It's not like something where you're just gonna every single week, like, man, I'm blowing up, outside of, maybe post show when you're filling back out. But you're deep into an off season, man, it can be harder mentally than in a prep, just because lack of the visual change.
Oh, exactly it. Like, one of the harder things is to convince, and I mean that, convince a client or anyone really that if they want to improve, they're going to have to extend that off season. Like, we've talked about this quite a few times here on our podcast, and probably you on other podcasts and myself on other podcasts. But the amount of time that we allocate to these things that we really, really need to do, such as stop competing every 6 months, or stop doing 2 shows plus a year, or else you won't see that, that, like you said, those visual changes at all. Or what's even worse is that you might not see them at all, right? So what's kind of what we were thinking here with, like, the post-show blues and whatever, is that I was talking to Paula. This was the fabulous lady that jumped in on a group chat and gave Austin our idea. So thanks for this, Paula, because I know if you're thinking it, a whole bunch of other people are competing, because Paula just competed this last weekend here. And even though, like, this is her second show and whatever, like you said, it's like I wouldn't necessarily say 2 shows as a season competitor, but it's definitely not just a one and done type of thing. So you will have those feelings of being lost, we'll say. And I know that I was telling her too that we need to take a look at, there was a link that I had, a blog that I had written, Jesus, I'm going over myself here, a blog that I had written called What's Next? Tips for a Post-Competition Show You. And so I can go over some of that stuff too, but it was getting to the point that was so real, that the amount of girls that it would even be, and so this would range from, it's obviously not just girls, this would range from people that came in first, people that came in 14th, people that won the overall. Like, this was higher level competitors, lower level competitors. You can get that feeling of feeling lost, most definitely can.
Yeah, and I don't know if you notice this trend, but something I ask on my consultations is, have you had any bad experiences previously, whether it be with yourself or a coach? And that's not the exact wording of the question, but I asked that just simply because it seems like that this is probably the most common bad experiences. That they had lack of direction,
Yep.
lack of whatever, anything post show. And the trend that I find though is that there's just really not a plan, and there's just not enough dialogue about it. And okay, so to me, I want people to focus on the show when we're getting ready to compete. I don't want them to focus on, hey, what am I eating after the show, or man, I can't wait to start my off season. I find too much of that, I find, is a bad thing, right?
Oh, yes. Keep going. Yep.
Because we're taking away from the task at hand. We really need to focus on the fact that you are competing, and let's do, the best we can in that first and foremost. But if there's no dialogue, I also find that that's a bad thing. So I at least bring it up to people, especially the newer the competitor is. I think the more important this is, especially, is that I'm going to say something somewhere. And I usually won't do it like the week of the show if they have a lot to focus on and get together, but maybe, a few weeks out or something where, hey, post show, I'm not sure if you had planned to continue working with me. I really hope so. I would like to make sure that you have a successful post show period. It can be kind of and I tell people if they're new, I'm like, this can be a make or break period. You can set yourself up for a great off season, both physically and mentally, make great progress, or you can go down a rabbit hole that you just really don't want any part of. So, and I might refer them to, I might even refer them to one of our reverse dieting episode that we did forever ago.
Yep.
But
Second episode. Yep.
but yeah, I think there needs to be some kind of dialogue there. You got to mention it and have something going on. And unfortunately, for a lot of the newer competitors, they take that very lightly and they don't understand the significance of it. And because they think, oh, I've done so good in this prep, I've been so motivated, there's just no way that I could fail post show. I'm going to be so motivated to succeed and progress. And that's just not, it's a lot easier said than done. There's just so many things, both physically and mentally. And not only, even if you're mentally in a fantastic spot and you're very strong, you're now fighting against all these down-regulated hormones and hunger hormones that are all out of whack, and you're starving all the time, but you've actually just eaten 3 minutes ago. And there's just like, there's so much going on in that period that there's a lot of value in having a plan and having someone to help you with it.
Yes. So, in fact, for every show prep I do, I will force/include at least 2 weeks of post show care, because it's even one of my Instagram highlight stories. It says the X with like the sign, or like the don't do this, and like the huffy emoji that's like upset and everything else. And it's basically talking about how coaches post show will just disappear. And you see it more so, which is just straight up friggin' frightening, is that if you don't place well, now the coach will drop you, which to me is just flat out pathetic, in that you can tell that now they're definitely just about the money. So that's a little bit mind blowing. And then there is ones that, even if you're like a top 3 champion, as if you're not competing like that day, they'll drop you. Or if you choose to continue not on with that coach, they'll drop you off the face of the planet. And I don't agree with that. Even if someone says, okay, I did a show, I want to take off on my own here, I'll say, okay, that's cool, I respect that, but we're doing at least another 2 assessments here to ensure that your rebound is where we want it to be. Because you summed it up so beautifully, Austin, when you said that it's easier said than done. I don't think there is anything in this realm that's easier said than done. Maybe an extra inch on your biceps in 2 weeks, sure, that could be easier said than done. But it's to go into that show and saying, I'm not going to rebound, or I'm going to have the best rebound possible, or I'm going to reverse diet my ass off, and da-da-da-da. Like, I don't think anyone has come out unscathed from that to some varying degree. In terms of, has everyone followed their reverse diet? Like, we both know that Austin and I really don't care for that term just because of how much it was bastardized. But as long as you're doing the right form of reverse dieting, sure, of course, use that term. but I don't think anyone's nailed it 100%. There could be some 95s and some 90s, and you know what? Good for you, and I mean that, good for you. But it's so unrealistic, and that is probably outside of maybe the day before the show and the day of the show. I would say that week, or at least the couple days following the show, is the most important part of the entire prep. Would you say along the same lines?
Oh, 100%, and it's probably the hardest. Also,
I would say so, because you've got now, you can take a look at our relationships podcast. We go into this heavy, but you've got your family saying, hey, let's go out for food. Or can you be social now? Can you eat normal now? Can you have alcohol now? And one of the worst things, and like this is getting a slight bit off topic, but I still think it's relevant, is to plan an all-inclusive Mexico vacation 2 days after your show. Or I've even seen the day after the show, people will leave on Sunday to go to Mexico. I'm like, you are dooming the living hell out of yourself by doing this. Just wait. Please wait. Give it some time. I know that you're in shape, and I know that you're ready to have like a break or whatever, but that is giving yourself access, especially these all-inclusive ones, to usually unlimited alcohol, unlimited food, and just you're not around necessarily. Depends upon the gym at some of these places. I've seen some nice gyms, but you're not depending upon. I've even seen the most diligent people on the planet go there, and they either A, they want to work out all the time, or B, they're so done with working out that now their post-workout drink is now vodka something. So it's just that's something I just wanted to mention there too, really quickly. But in terms of what you brought up for the getting excited, or I'll say, or focusing too hard on the post show, is that I kind of put that fire out pretty quickly. Now, there does have to be a chat about that in terms of, usually either 4 to 2 weeks out, somewhere in there, 2 to 4 weeks out, I will have the chat about, like I said, like I'll have the chat at the beginning, of course, saying, hey, for the next 2 weeks after your show, you will still have me as your coach, and then I will be on top of you saying, hi. And even I was just telling you before this, I had a call with Paula on Monday there after her show, just saying like, hey, checking up and checking in. And that's when she kind of gave us this question too, was actually before I even had the call with her. And she goes, okay, thank gosh, this was so much help. And so I actually directed her towards the blog that I had written there too, which, like I said, I'll go over here just a tiny bit to go over some of the things there. But if you focus so hard on that off season, where do you think your head is at? Your head is going to be at like, oh, I'm going to be so excited to get bigger biceps, or I'm going to be so excited to get bigger glutes, or I'm so excited to get, and it's like, what happened to the excitement of the show? Because it's one of those things, is that like, if you have a test at school and you're so excited for the new video game to come out, and all you're doing is watching advertisements of the new video game, or you're reading up on the reviews of the video game, that is direct time taken away from where your mindset and where your all your attention should be, which is on the show. Like, I get it. I get it that sometimes prep is hard. I know, not sometimes. Prep should always be hard. I get it. However, for you to blow your chances of, let's say you were going to be top 5 and now you are 7th because you just started going, you know what, this food won't matter, or the show, I'm really just more excited for the offseason. Let's get going on the offseason. It's just, no. That's just, Zig Ziglar coined the term stinkin thinkin, and is some stinkin thinkin, for sure.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've had some people, especially the ones that they're good at taking criticism, and I can be a little harder on them. Like, I'll light them up for that. I'm like, no, let's stop that right now. Like, that's ridiculous. Why even compete?
Exactly.
Because I hear some ridiculous things, like, to the point where it's like, what, are you even want to do the show? I don't understand.
I know. Yeah.
And it's frustrating to me, and that's definitely kind of a can of worms right there. And I definitely try to put a halt to that very quickly and focus on what we need to do. But yeah, at the same time, I mean, you definitely have to make sure that there's some dialogue, and it's like, post-show, people can get away with things to varying degrees, right? You know what I mean? It's like, people are metabolically, they're all different, and the end of their preps were different, and this and that. Not everyone is going to just immediately become a fat slob. However, there are some people that will. Like, it will happen that quick. Like, I'm talking 2 weeks. You're like, what in the hell? You know, and you have to be aware of that, and that's why that's why I think it's important to have somebody in your corner, have the proper plan for you personally, because it is going to be different. And you do have to treat everyone differently. But at the same time, as you and I both know, normally that motivation post show it is good, right? It is good because couple things, you have more food in you or whatever. So you're getting those wicked pumps in the gym and you're a little watery, but you don't give a shit because you're all veiny.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, but as soon as that one morning, and there's always this one morning, it happens to nearly everyone. If you don't have a plan and you're just, and you binge or you overeat or whatever, you will have this morning. It's the morning when you wake up and you look in the mirror and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll spill. Like as soon as that glycogen's topped off, as soon as everything's topped off, you're gonna gain fat and it's going to happen quick.
Yep.
And you, guess what? Where's that motivation now? You're like, nope, I'm depressed. I'm sad. I'm depressed. I want to start dieting again, or I'm going to start restricting my food or adding my cardio back in when really, your coach is pulling your cardio out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough. I mean, I tell people, and I always am super proud of like my clients that do really, really well. Most of them I do post show. I'm like, get through these first few, 3 to 4 weeks when we're getting your hunger hormones and everything sorted back out and getting everything emotionally leveled off. Said you will be so glad that you did.
Oh,
because
for sure.
What you're going to see in, 2 months down the line. Now go look at all the people you competed against that did not execute post show. Look at them 2 months down the line. Let's see where you're at and let's see where they are at. Yeah. And then let's see who's happy in their off season.
Yeah. No, exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
you can pretty easily tell some of this stuff too. And I've told a couple people to do this, and it's never an attempt to be mean, but like if I know that I've seen someone that has goofed up their post show, it's almost borderline of a little bit of a scare tactic. Is like, because now all of a sudden I'll take a look at this person's Instagram. They go, okay, or Facebook, whatever it is, but usually Instagram because it's more pictured predominant. And I'll say, where is the pictures of them? Notice how they went from that post show week to putting pictures up to now either there's no photos of themselves, or every day is now a throwback Thursday, or they're kind of hiding themselves away, because that's how quickly this can happen. And they go look and they go, oh my God, you're not kidding. I'm like, of course I'm not kidding, because this is so prevalent and so real. And everybody, they especially everybody that's never gone through it, and even if you have, but definitely people that haven't gone through it, they'll either do one of usually two things. They'll either think that post show is going to be horrifying, or they're going to think, that's not going to happen to me. And I will tell you very firmly, it happened to me both shows. So, and that was with coaching. That was everything else. And yet, yes, the second time was better for sure. And I was able to wrestle around those things like that. And I ended up having a much better social circle support team, not only online, but then in person as well. But it's like Austin said, is that don't take this lightly. It's because it's just so very, very real, right? And you can look at the people that have done the reverse diet correctly, and they will always be, and if you chat to them and reach out to them, they are always over the top happy that and it's not even suffering, you know what I mean? If you were to be able to float back and drift back to your last 4 weeks or whatever of prep, when you were hungry, and the what's the term I'm looking for? The sacrifice turns into suffering, which some of us do need to do that to get into shape, and you will look back at that. Now you look at your plan now, and you've got all this food and whatever, comparatively your cardio training volume's down, everything, and you're like, you've got it easy compared to where you were. So that's one thing that can really kind of bring you back from the brink there too. So I'm just remembering that it was post-show blues and kind of the emotional stuff is, don't hold that in. Find a friend, even if you don't, or like, as what a lot of people do, excuse me there, I'm swallowing on my gum almost, is we will be able to find people backstage. I know girls are a little bit better at this, but guys are too. Is find some friends backstage and be like, if you're hanging out with your class in line or something like that, or you're pumped up or something, or you're pumping up, and just like say, hey, like, you want to hold each other accountable, or do you want to like text each other post show or whatever, and that has made some of the best relationships, some of the best friendships. So there's a really easy way to have like an accountability group or something like that, and just be very real. You know what I mean? Especially with your coach. If I can give you one very key thing, is be very, like, of course, be honest all the time. But this is be so honest. This be over the top honest. Be like, the minute you have, if you have a plan, be like, hey, I completed this day. Like, I've got no problem hearing from my clients every day, the day after the show, because I like that. And if not, I'll reach out and I'll usually say, hey, how's it going? Like, just like I said, I did with Paula there. Hey, how's it going? Just a quick 20-minute phone call completely turned everything around, right? But to get rid of the blues, this can be multifaceted. And this was what I called my blog, was, you can see it on my website. Just go to megamarty.com and blogs. It's called What Now? What's Next? Tips for a Post-Competition You. And there's a couple different ways to go about this. And I'll reference, of course, Scott Abel once again. I know Austin's probably sick of me referring to him now, but his was a little bit aggressive in terms of what he said for like the what's next and whatever. And I'll mention it anyways, because some people took us off and run with it. And he said, if you are simply training only for a show, stop training. And what I knew, he kind of said that without really saying anything else to it. I think it was a Facebook post. But what he means is that you have to remember, and this is myself too, and kind of everybody, some people, we tend to forget this, is that you should be training, you should be exercising, doing whatever it is because you enjoy it. Because in Austin, you just said this before the podcast here, you compete because you enjoy competing. You don't compete because you hate it. Because how many times have we said that on this podcast too, is that if you're doing something that you hate, why on earth are you doing it? Like, I get like I could see now, if you were getting paid to do prep, sure. If you're making gobs of money, let's say you're an IFBB pro that comes in first, second, whatever at some of these bigger shows, and that's how you're making your money, and you've got sponsorships to uphold, sure, that's a whole other can of worms. But for the most part, no one's being paid here, that especially in the amateur ranks. Of course not. Well, because what was that fee for that show, Austin? $400, like, because you weren't 3 weeks out or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, we're not making money here. We're paying $400 American, which I said to him was 5 million Canadian. So it's that you have to take these things into consideration. Not only that, but that's the financial constraint of this too. But so what I like to say to you, I'll go through each one of these and kind of get your opinion on them here, Austin. So, like, kind of the blogs, and it says, for me, it says, fitness never ends. As it, just think about how flat out silly it is to be in shape for one day and never in shape again, or in our cases, in shape for a couple minutes on stage. So there's a couple options here of what you can do. Is number one is to pick a show for a goal and use this. I'm not the biggest fan of external goals solely for the reason we stay on track and work out. However, they can be useful as a direct motivator. Of course. So this is, let's say, that the show that you do is every year, because in Canada we have 3 kind of seasons. We've got March, we've got June, and we've got October, and sometimes there's a November and a May show sprinkled in here and there depending upon the federation. And so, sure, you can pick that show next year, but now I'm pretty sure you've heard this too. Sometimes that's not enough in terms of that's 12 months away and they want something a little bit closer. So what do you kind of say to people like that?
Well, a lot of time I will use, and I find myself doing this more kind of unconsciously, is I do use the scare tactics a little bit.
Sure.
Or a lot.
Good.
Because I think that part of my whole MO, and I know you're the same, and this is part of the reason that people, I think, seek me out, is that I'm honest and care about their health, first and foremost, of course. And I'm like, look, if you do this and continue to do it, this X is going to equal Y eventually. You're going to deal with these hormonal issues, or potentially disordered eating, and you're not going to get any better, of course. So even that right there should be enough to tell you that's not a good idea. But yeah, I'm just straight up honest when it comes to that stuff. And I'm not a jerk about it, but I'm like, look, I care. I care about you, and I care about my business and my reputation. And I get way too many people in this same situation to just take your money and say, yeah, go ahead. So that's it. You're normally my first go-to.
Yeah, no, that's right. Then the next thing I have written down is number 2, take the judge's feedback, or look for a photo shoot, or even just a new level of condition shape that you've achieved, and now it's time to beat that. Because I referenced Colette here, I think just a tiny bit ago on my on my Facebook or in both on my Instagram and my Facebook about how she is a farmer and she also has another job on top of that. And as I'm sure you're aware, there's very limited time that you can actually pick a show where you physically can't leave the farm, because I know she has cows and calves and just can't leave. So she could only compete in November, and the show that we were supposed to do in November either got moved or got canceled to put to a different weekend. So she found one of her friends that had a whole bunch of old school classic cars. And so we did a prep, like a mock prep, and got in wicked shape for these shows. And it was super, because now it was on her time, and that was something super cool, because it was definitely outside of, we'll say, her show time frame. In other words, I think it was 16 months since her last show, so it wasn't like she was doing a show and then she was doing like a photo shoot 3 months later where she had to kind of, reverse diet out of that and then try to go back in and get lean again for it or whatever. But that there's a way to kind of showcase your hard work. Now, not only that, but you get photos that you get to take home, something that you're really proud of, and then you get to see kind of where you're at. So that's something that I recommend. Do you ever recommend photo shoots and other things like that for your clients if they don't want to jump on stage?
Yeah, photo shoots. I mean, I've even recommended some unconventional stuff because if
Sure.
I know a little bit more about them and what their interests are, like I've actually, not to go too far off topic, but I've actually found a few people that they found other interests they didn't even really know about, or things that they were
Sure.
good at,
Yep.
athletically, whether it was, like powerlifting or something. That's a common one though, I think,
Yep.
is the powerlifting.
I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people that they just genetically and metabolically, I just am not super keen on them pursuing competing all the time because of how rough it is on them. And
Yeah.
so we did some powerlifting. I'm like, hey, you're really freaking strong.
Yeah, and
And
you're really good at this versus you're not that great as a competitor, right? Yeah.
and then guess what? They end up being a powerlifter
Yeah.
in the end. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, people keep an open mind in that regard. But yeah, absolutely. To answer your question, I definitely will use other avenues like that to kind of feed that competitive nature.
Sure. And what, like, I've one of my, I call it famous. It's not famous. So one of my famous things that was going on for a bit there was I had a lot of bikini girls that would do really well. They would get to the provincial or the national level, and then they would all of a sudden just take up hiking. And I'm not kidding. This happened to about 4, 5, 6 of my higher ranked girls that probably, if they kept going, would have been able to come in top 3 in all of Canada, or probably even win their pro card. And it's not even so much they got bored with it, just they wanted a newer type of challenge. So now it was one of those things that they would still train nice and hard for like, we'll say a bikini prep or whatever, but then they would just switch over towards hiking. I had one of my clients, Kate, she was training for figure. She ended up doing the Arnold Classic. She had won one provincials. I think I forget what she came in Canada, either 4th or 5th in all of Canada, maybe 6th. And then after that, she's like, you know what? And funny enough, she took up CrossFit. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, thinking in my head, all the hilarious stories I know about CrossFit and everything else. I was like, but you know what? She was one of the last people I trained in person. And she's learned the technique and everything else. And she was always been an athlete. She was a hockey player and kind of everything else. But then she took that and ran with it. And now she like went from being like unranked out of like 5,000 athletes in Canada to number 86 off the hop. Like just blasted onto the scene within a year, and so just took off with it. And so there you go. Now she's doing it correctly. She's not overgassing herself out or having any of these fun injuries and this rhabdosis that everyone's kind of getting doing CrossFit. But that's it. And just know that is okay. And I want to talk about that a tiny bit, is that it's okay if you decide to either hang up the hat temporarily or permanently. It's okay. You know, like if and I've seen this quite often. It's not often enough for me to bring it up that you can lose yourself in being a bodybuilder. You can lose yourself in being a bikini girl, a figure girl, or even a men's physique guy. You can definitely lose yourself in being that, or you feel that people are going to judge you, or people that feel are going to think less of you if you stop or you change this avenue, or people will make fun of you, which, you know what? If they do, screw them. Like, who is the best example we have of this now, Austin? Dorian Yates. What does he do now, man? Pretty sure like yoga and smokes weed. And dude is loving life like no one's business, right? Like, I think that people were not mad, but they probably were. At least some people were mad, but they were grumpy. They'd be like, here is the 6-time biggest, most badass blood and guts Mr. O there ever was, and now here he is, downsized and doing this. I'm like, have you taken a look at the dude's wife? She's gorgeous, and he gets to hang around with her all day and gets to go do what he wants. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast. Like, He's the man. What's your opinion on all that stuff?
Yeah, why not? I mean,
why not? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shit. He seems happy.
Yeah, he seems happier
clearly.
than most. I bet you he seems happier. Him and Arnold. I bet you are the two happiest guys that were Mr. Olympia now, post Mr. Olympia.
Well, I mean, shit. Arnold's. I don't know. You could accomplish any more in your life than him.
No.
It's pretty much the pinnacle of success.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. And at the same time, too, you do get people that they're like, oh, if they'll kind of rag on you if you do want to pursue bodybuilding long term and you live that lifestyle long term. They're like, you're not diverse. You need to branch out. And hey, I don't buy into either side of it. Like, honestly, I do what you want, like whatever makes you happy. But the biggest thing is you need to be okay with what you're doing. I just think that this goes back to the identity thing. Don't just do something because you think you have to do it. Do it because you enjoy it. So if you genuinely enjoy bodybuilding and that lifestyle and being, strict and tight with everything for freaking 40 years, I do it. Who's to say not?
Yep.
Like, I don't, you know what I mean? In the same token, don't let anyone tell you that you're weak or that you wasted your talent or whatever just because you don't want to do bodybuilding. That's ridiculous. So yeah, absolutely. I think ultimately you just need to be happy, but actually be happy, not convince yourself that you're happy.
Oh, that's the man. And that's just it. I love how you said the blah, 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 if it makes you happy. I would emphasize that so much, is that when you find that going to the gym or getting on stage or whatever turns from I want to I have to, that's when it's time to either take a break or look into something else. Because the amount of times, unfortunately, that I've either seen the stage or the process or even the coach, let's be real honest here, even like if you had a bad coaching experience, I've seen people that walk into the gym either the post show week or like maybe it's 3 or 4 weeks after the show, and now they literally can't stand being there. It's something that used to give them such joy. Get out. Don't force yourself to be there. Like, I know you'll hear the exact opposite from other people, and I couldn't disagree with that more, because I haven't seen someone go into the gym that is disliking it and muscle through it, and now they start liking it again. To me, that sounds like something like if you really liked a topic in school, or at least you were enjoying a topic, and then you started hating going into the chemistry lab or to the physics lab, or you started hating it, and then you were being forced to go by only someone by yourself. I'm talking. There's no money involved. There's no other than, we'll say, self-satisfaction. Is take a break. And every time I see this, and that's why one of my questions on my assessments is like, how's your intensity and what's your motivation for wanting to go to the gym? As soon as they start seeing, this week wasn't so great, and then I look back through the last 2 or 3, and they're going, and I'll go, you know what? You're not allowed to go to the gym for this week. And they go, what? And I go, nope, you still eat on plan, go maybe have a free meal or something like that. They'll say they're not allowed to go to the gym, and sometimes they'll go, oh, okay. And then usually if my thoughts and my coaching are correct, by that next week, they're going, okay, you know what? I actually missed the gym. And that's one of the quotes I like, is give yourself a chance to miss something. And then before you know it, they're back in the gym, or maybe they need a new routine. It could be a lot of things. Like, and that's why I'll ask too, how long have we been doing this workout routine? And especially if they're saying like, oh, it's only been 6 weeks or whatever, or not even, and then they're still not enjoying going to the gym. Yeah, take a break, and you will thank yourself for it.
Yeah, I mean the need the need for constant variety feeds back into our original topic. Yep. That's like the whole have to have a show picked out immediately, or you have to change your workout routine every 3 to 4 weeks or whatever. Like, I'm honest with people. If you want to be your best, whatever best means to that person, at this sport or venture, you have to be totally okay with repetition. It's just inevitable.
Yep.
So if you're not, either accept that you may not be your best, you may not be quite to your full potential, but you might be happier, or do something else. I mean, it seems, and it seems unfair because there's so many things like there's so many things in light. Well, life's unfair. You know, people are born with
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
yeah, but bodybuilding is just so there's just so much emphasis on the genetic component of it.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
that it's like if you get wrapped up in that, and oh man,
Yep.
it's rough. It's rough because now that like especially like for example the show that I just did recently, it was a lot of the classes was a pro qualifier, right? So they gave out
Yes.
IFBB pro card, and of course you're seeing genetically elite, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. And you listen and people talk like, hey, what'd you do for prep? Hey, what'd you do for prep?
Of course.
And there's some just absolute freak shows. And I'm like, well, yeah, I ate less than all my bikini clients and did cardio. And I did cardio 3 times a day and tried not to pass out when I got off the toilet and all this stuff. And it's like, man, that's really rough. I'm like, but you know what? I love bodybuilding, and that's the only way that I can be my best and be here. Yeah. So I either do that or I'm not good.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, that's just the reality of it. And I think that's and I can tie all this right back into the topic again, is that you have to be willing to do all those things that aren't always fun or aren't easy, and you can't worry about what your friends are doing, and it's you and females especially, because I have this discussion with them more because of course like their recovery and the recovery post show is a little more tedious. It just takes more time. There's more factors. But if you want to compete long term, you know, let's say if you want to have a long competitive career, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, you have to be willing to take those long off seasons and repair and do the right things. And we've talked about how short the competitive shelf life of females are a lot of the time, or is, for that reason, because they just don't take the right steps. But and it's super unfortunate because if done right, the shelf life of a female should be longer than a male because they have less muscle.
Yep.
And they have, you know, and even the ones that are enhanced, they're not putting their body through what a male does.
No, that's
you know what I mean? So, you know, so all these things, like you can have look at some of these women, especially, in the pro leagues and stuff, like they're excelling into like 50 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I try to use these examples and stuff too, to kind of get people to play the long game and give them that, you know, give them some kind of like example, of course.
Sure. Yep.
It's just, hey, look at so-and-so. Yep. They started competing when they were 20 and now they're 50, and look how much progress they've made, and look, they're still doing it. And I said, do you want that to be you?
Yes.
Well, only pretty much everyone's going to say yes.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. That's just kind of a little rant there, but I think it all tied in nicely.
No, for sure. Like, and that's just it, is that you can give them the examples of, like, because I don't know anyone famous off the top of my head, but like I know locally where I can say, like, at least point out good examples without saying the person's name. But like that's why I have my three-year showgirls that I call them, right? It's like, do you want to be like this, or do you want to do something that you really enjoy? And if they keep saying, well, I need to compete because that's what drives me, whatever, I was like, well, then is this really making you happy? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you look at most other things, like we'll say competitive hiking, I don't even really know if that's that big of a thing. Like, I know there's obviously marathons and things for running, but like people hike because they love doing it. And that should be such a guiding light for bodybuilding and competing, is that are you doing this because you like it? Now, I understand if you do a show and you actually wind up not liking it and you want to go back to just working out. Well, that's borderline ideal, because now you can tinker around. Then you can do the photo shoots. You can pick something else. But to do something and be like, yeah, I want to burn out or fizzle out after 3 years. It's like the amount of people that I know that have picked that option, Austin, like, or we'll say, what's the word I'm looking for? Consciously pick that option is zero. I don't think I've ever had someone say, yeah, you know what? I'd rather burn out. Like it's just so frigging ridiculously silly. So yeah, and so now I will. This is actually on my blog here too, and I thought that this is another great thing. We kind of talked about this in some other podcasts here, but do more non-fitness related things. Yes, be friggin' social. Yes, this is a goal of yours, but maybe you wanted to take that vacation, go exploring. Maybe you wanted to take an online course. Maybe you wanted to learn the guitar. There's no reason you can't find something valid to do, along with more energy and the more time you'll have from not being in the gym as much. And yes, this is me saying cut down on your cardio or even training volume and give the mind and body a break and find something else that you just might be missing out on. And how true is that, right? Because like we talked about the one-dimensional people where everyone's got that guy or that girl that they literally all they talk about is competing. And you know what? That's fine as long as you're not going to get burnt out and kind of all that other fun stuff. But geez, I will tell you, there is a lot of life out there. There is lots of stuff to do. It is 2019. There is so much more possibilities than we've ever had outside of going anywhere in Canada on flights, which is astronomical. Please, Mr. Prime Minister, take down our flight prices. I know you're listening right now. But there's just more stuff to do. Like, yeah, there's music out there. There's art out there. Like, bodybuilding is in a way, is art. So how that people can be freaking thinking that it's not art is beyond me. So definitely look into having some more extracurricular activities or even having people that are diverse in your social circle. Like I've got two of my best friends. Yes, they're one of them is a classic physique competitor, and one of them is used to be a bodybuilder for a while. And one of my other best friend, he is a carpenter who lifts weights, but it's not his big thing. And then my cousin who recently moved here, he plays hockey and golf, but he doesn't really lift weights. And so we talk about completely different things with that. And that's just expand all of that, but that'll keep you more excited than if you want to be completely something like a specialist and talk about bodybuilding and talk about competing every last breath of you might just do that, what we're talking about, and might just burn out, and that's not a good thing at all.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to think of what episode this was that we mentioned it. I don't recall for sure, but I said something to the extent of like in prep that I still
you keep up your routine of your social life and whatever heck else, right? Your other things you enjoy. I remember you saying that.
And don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm no social butterfly. It's not very extensive, but my point is that okay, so just the whole idea of just too much downtime in your mind is just not good for a lot of people, and they just don't. And you need to have that to an extent, right? You don't want to be like anxious all the time, but at the same time, you need time to relax. But at the same time, it's just people. I'm like, what are you possibly going to think about bodybuilding related when you're sitting there doing nothing? Yeah, there's always something you can think about, but
Sure.
you're thinking about things that just simply do not matter. Your plan is going to be working in the background. You don't have to think about bodybuilding for the entire 3 hours between your meals.
Exactly. Yes.
You don't. And ease yourself into it. You know what I mean? If that stuff makes you anxious, ease yourself into it. Go to an event that's a couple hours long.
Yep.
Have a meal beforehand. Go to the event. Have a meal afterwards. Show yourself, okay, I didn't. And I like to reflect on those things too. Like, what did I think about during that time period in between there? And usually it's, well, I'm focusing on whatever I was at. And damn, did that feel good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then I look back, and heck, the next morning I may even look better, because I'm not stressed.
Cortisol's down, stress, you got it. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, my point is that your plan will be working in the background, and you can apply this to post show. I think, like some people talk about staying busy during prep, right? So you're not thinking about your hunger and stuff. And I think that's actually a really good technique to just kind of keep it going post show, at least till things smooth out a little bit. Like we talked about the hunger hormones, and inevitably you're going to feel a little bit more stable when you have just a little bit more body fat on you. But all these things are going to happen. Well, hopefully they don't happen too quickly, but yeah, keep your mind occupied post show. I would normally suggest just maintaining a relatively similar routine, because I think people have this idea that if you are executing in your post show period well, it's not like you're going to wake up and 2 days after the show and be like, wow, my body is 100% healed. I am. Now mentally, a lot of people think that, you know what I mean? Because they've got that, like, short-term motivation and stuff. But let's see a couple weeks post show how you're feeling when that dies down. If I'm getting someone that they're adhering 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks post show and everything's going well, they're setting themselves up for a heck of an off season. And in 9 times out of 10, they have basically just maintained a really similar structured, like, their routine. They get up, they do the same things during the day, yada yada yada, and then maybe the biggest difference is I give them a free meal on Saturdays or something. You know what I mean? So it's not, but we're easing back into it. I think we talked about that in the reverse dieting episode. Is you definitely do want to ease back into, like, I wouldn't, and you mentioned vacation's a perfect one. Like, I'm not a huge fan of abruptly flipping your daily routine, like right outside of prep, because your body is just not ready for this, and you are going to have a really hard time.
Yeah, no, you absolutely are. Like, a hard time is being so nice about it. I don't know how many people have done that. It's enough that I bring it up, right? That they do that. I know people have gone to Hawaii. I know people have gone to Mexico, and it's always, and I mean this, always been disastrous. Like, sure, they may have went and they may have trained, they may have eaten a little bit, and then when they come back, it's even more of a disaster, because now they're like, oh, I'm not in Mexico anymore, when it was Mexico that made them really happy, and now they have to come back to life, even if they, like, say they enjoy their life and they enjoy their routine. It's just a mentally bad time to go and an emotionally bad time to go. So, and then it's always been, I will say firmly, a lot of work for me to wrestle that when they come back. But hey, we always do find ways around it. Just save that stuff for, I would say, at least the 4 weeks after the show would be a great idea to do it. Like, I would say that's kind of the minimum, just from my experience of kind of doing this whole thing. Yeah, and also reading here really quick too this is in the same vein as the last thing I said, is get back into things you potentially may have taken a break from, such as if you were doing a book club, if you used to do painting, if you used to do skiing and power shopping. I said that's what I used to do. It's just a way that you can be not always super fitness oriented, right? Or, like, maybe for some reason, let's say you played men's league hockey. This is one of the really good examples I used to have, where people would play baseball or people play soccer, and, time adds up. Maybe you've got children, maybe you've got this, and you really can't stuff everything in, and you did have to, quote unquote, give up something for a tiny, tiny bit. And now you can get back into that. So that's going to be exciting. That's going to be part of, like you just said, part of your routine, part of something that you were used to, part of something that you enjoy. Like, I know a lot of people really enjoy their, like, you think they call them beer leagues or bush leagues or something out there, is out here too. So it's just finding that, like, and even make a list of it. And so if your brain is going crazy in the last, like, couple weeks, how like we were talking about, people will emphasize way too hard on trying to figure out what they want to do post show or whatever. They're too busy focusing on their off season already. Is that you can pretty easily kind of stomp that and then just make plans type of thing, right? So especially if people are like the title of my blog there, the what next, what's now, is that you can pick the what's next, what's now. You can pick that in. I'm gonna do that Mexico vacation in 4 weeks. I'm gonna do a photo shoot in half a year from now, or start even just looking at photographers or something. And, like you just said, keep the mind busy. And I agree with that, especially if it's being productive, because what's the classic most worst thing you can do during prep is that, you think about your food, you have your meal, you eat your meal, and then you go sit on the couch, and then all the doom thoughts, is what I call them, kind of come racing to your brain, and you're just thinking the worst case scenario, thinking about, so now you just ate, and now you're going, okay, 2 hours and 59 minutes till my next meal, 2 hours and 58 minutes until my next meal. And that is just the exact opposite thing to do. And I get it, you're hungry, but you go do stuff, you go preoccupy yourself. It literally is, in a form, distracting yourself. It really is. But hey, that's okay. We need distractions sometimes, because that is such a nightmare and such a death trap, is if you are focusing on the food, or you're only getting enjoyment out of those times when you're going to the gym. Nah, you got to be doing something different.
Yeah, I mean, you enjoy what you enjoy for sure, but yeah, but again, I mean, you're going to find real quick in that off season, like I said, when you don't start seeing those visible changes, and and things become a little more monotonous, you're going to find that you're going to have a lot less to latch on to. You know what I mean? Because it's not like prep where you're not going to post 900 selfies in your IG story because, 6 weeks in, you're like, well, I don't even know what the hell to occupy myself with now. This is what I did in prep, but that I'm not losing fat every day now or every week or whatever. Now what do I focus on? So yeah. It's just, you absolutely have to, it's subtle. Like I said, doing it subtly is a good idea, but at the same time, you want to start kind of shifting focus in a couple spots at a time, maybe one thing a week, make it easy on yourself.
Well, because it's if you focus only on the downsides, like especially post show, if you're getting the post show blues and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my weight's going to go up, my body fat's going to go up, that's picking the negatives, and that's something I'll just say flat out, just stop it. You know what I mean? Of course those are going to happen, but what about now I'm going to be making improvements to my weak body parts. Now I'm going to have more time because my cardio is going to be reduced. Now I can pick a new adventure or something like that. Like start looking at those darn positives because they're there. There's nothing but negatives and go, oh, I'm not going to have any fun until my next show prep. Like, I'll tell you, as much as the most seasoned, like just like you said, Austin, you're probably one of the people I know that loves competing themselves the most. You're not depressed in between every single show, and it's not to put down those who have become depressed in between shows. I'm saying that there are better options. There are things you can look forward to on top of the prep. And like, sure, yes, you can have a countdown and be like 11 months out if you really wanted to, and that's fine as long as it's not driving you crazy or as long as it's not making you putting you into that bad, the stinking thinkin or whatever like that. It's just really make sure that you kind of find things that are also part of who you are. Like when we did our audio biography there, I talked about how I really like fashion, how I still really like, funny enough, there's that Marvel's Dark Phoenix is their next movie they're putting out. I got the omnibus comic book, like just something I'm going to start reading, which is all the comic books leading up to it because I love reading. I love audio books. It's just figure out, and like that's why on my blog there I would say go back to things that you used to do. Maybe it was skating, maybe it was playing badminton. I went with a friend the other day and we played badminton for the first time in years, and oh my god, was that fun, and was that hard? Do I suck compared to where I used to be? Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. So there's really easy things that you can try to do is just go, what did I used to enjoy and why not try it? Like I'll kind of finish, I'll be finished here with my side is that I went to something, there's an app called Couch Surfing. Have you heard of this, Austin?
You mentioned it. I had never heard of it till then.
And so it's exactly, so couch surfing, I may have mentioned it on the podcast or if not, but I'll just bring it up again, is that it's kind of I know it sounds weird, but it's a free version of Airbnb. But anyways, they have meetups around here for kind of other couch surfers if they're here from Argentina, if they're here from Australia, if they're here even from the US. And so you can go meet up and you can kind of swap stories about where you stayed or swap stories about your traveling experiences, because I'm interested in traveling here soon. So I've been going to those. So those are super neat to do. Just, I'm not saying to do this. I'm just giving you examples of new things that so I'm following my own advice here and kind of trying things out. So yeah, that's all I've got from me on that end. What about yourself here?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think just, I definitely like, that we mentioned slowly implementing things that you enjoy. And of course, do those things as much as you can in the prep also, obviously, if you can. It's never going to hurt. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. Just make sure, like I said, make sure that it's something that you really want to do. And if you can't, if you're going to be a part-timer, I'm not going to knock anyone for it, but at the same time, those are typically the people that just genuinely don't really enjoy it as much as they should. They just enjoy the fact that they're in shape, and they enjoy the fact that it gives them something. And there's there's a lot of better ways to do it without putting your body through that and spending the money and all this ridiculous stuff. So.
Well, yeah, you get in shape for a vacation. You know what I mean? Instead of going to where you'd be at contest prep, go to the same degree as 4 weeks out or something, and you'll still look great. You'll still be probably one of the most in shape people on the vacation or on the beach. And just there's so many more options, especially for, we'll say, fitness body composition goals. That doesn't have to be the stage. As much as we are contest prep coaches and we do these things, it's just we don't want to see you go down that path, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you're either hating it or the worst case scenario is now you've done something to your health that is just not favorable by any stretch.
Yeah, and I've caught flack about this, but I really I try to stand by it. It's competition. This is the
Yes.
upper. This is supposed to be the upper echelon of a physique. Like you don't if you're not going to go to compete and go to, hey, I'm not going to say you have to be ridiculous. Like I'm win first, I'm first or I'm last, but because obviously like not everyone's going to win, but
Sure.
if you're not going to compete like against other people and you just just get in shape and have fun and do other things. And
Yep.
we just mentioned a bunch of things in this podcast.
Yep.
So um, there's just no need to do all that and shit. I
No.
couldn't even fathom spending all that freaking money if
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it and putting myself through that. Goodness.
Yep. And that there are, I will mention, I don't know if they're there or not, but I know a couple of the leagues up here, they will have a transformation round that you literally don't even need to go into the open where you're being judged against whoever, but you get a chance to tell your story. I think you make like a quick minute video, and that could be your thing there because exactly, if you're not showing up to compete or be competitive, like you said, you got shit on a little bit for it too, and maybe I will here too. But like you said, this is a competition, so show up to compete and have respect for the other people there. Like this like outside of it literally being the body transformation division, don't show up to outside of belonging. And that's kind of my promise I have to all my competitors is that I will always ensure that you at least belong at this show and you belong to be a competitor, or else I will say we're waiting for the next show, or we didn't have enough time or something, and I'll usually blame myself and say I'm sorry or something. But yeah, that's it is as much as like, yeah, we might catch flack for that. That is disrespectful, especially for these people that have been, let's say, dieting for however long, or the whatever, they haven't just decided in 8 weeks, oh, I'm going to go do a wet t-shirt contest because that's what some people think bikini is, and that's fine. However, don't do that, please. Just as a respect to kind of everything in the industry and everything that we kind of do. Okay, are you good?
Yeah, I'm it, man. Let's do it. We're done.
Awesome,
I'm good.
wicked. All right. Well, yeah, you're chomping at the bit now to go back compete again. I get it. All right.
Yeah.
So from Austin and Marty here at the Mind Body Broadcast, we will catch you next time.